Yosuga no Sora. Imagine a harem anime, but every single love interest is just a really basic, boring-ass archetype that we've all seen gazillions of times before. But then you add in a layer of absolutely horrible childhood trauma that's mostly used to sympathy bait the viewer into caring about these extremely surface-level characters, and then all of these traumas are conveniently resolved because these girls ended up clapping cheeks with the main character. Oh, and his twin is a love interest. His twin. His biological twin. You know, the one that popped out at the same time as he did from the same person? I've been reviewing stupid and terrible anime on my channel for a while now, but this might be the first time where I genuinely have no idea how to even begin this video because of how absolutely insane this anime is. It starts off pretty basic and kind of boring, but the last few episodes were some of the most wild things I have ever watched in my life. Hello everybody, my name is Leo Hashi, and today I watched Yosuga no Sora, so you don't have to. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to watch me slowly but surely lose my mind. And as always, a huge shout out to my channel members. Check my memberships out if you're interested. Yosuga no Sora, or Sky of Connection, when translated into English, is a 2010 harem ecchi anime based on a visual novel of the same name. It follows a pair of twins, Haru and Sora, who are tragically orphaned by a car accident. They end up traveling to their grandparents' countryside residence in order to start rebuilding their shattered life. And this journey ends up taking them on a wild ride involving romance, trauma, and unironically, romantically falling in love with your biological twin. This show structure is pretty interesting because instead of trying to have every single love interest try to get with the main character all at the same time, like a lot of other harem anime I've seen on my channel, it actually separates out each arc as a different standalone story, so it lets us actually get to know the characters a bit more, and the story feels a little more coherent than a jumbled mess like School Days or Brothers Conflict, where it feels like a main character is thrown into a pack of ravenous wolves and has to survive the mission somehow. It basically just feels like a visual novel but in anime form. A really notable thing about Yosuga no Sora is that every love interest has some kind of tragic backstory and trauma, and their individual stories end up being mostly about that tragic backstory and trauma and how they come to terms with the things they suffered through. So it does try to go way deeper than your basic ass rent-a-girlfriend type of harem anime. Does it succeed in telling these stories well? I'm sure everyone has differing opinions, but to me, well, no. No, it did not. Before really breaking down the insanity of this show, I do want to talk about a few general things. First off, y'all, remember, this is a harem anime from the 2010s, meaning this show has a few necessary prerequisites that are very, very important, like having to take English class in freshman year of f***ing college. Jiggle physics from a girl moving literally 2 inches? Check. Cleavage shots that make the main character go, "Oh my god, I swear I didn't mean to look." Check. Girls being drenched in water through the power of God or whatever almighty being exists in this universe, and then the main character accidentally peeping at their undergarments? Oh no! Check. Very not safe for work explicit scenes between the main character and a love interest doing things that I can't show or describe on YouTube? Check. And it feels like someone in the animation studio asked, "How many ass cheek shots do you want in this show?" And someone else just said, "Yes." And the cherry on top of all of this, as usual, is that these characters in the show are all high schoolers, aka minors. And as usual, I know that there are differences in America and Japan when it comes to these sorts of laws and technicalities and stuff, but as someone who grew up in the West, I think this is all just gross. And as a heads up, there are some pretty dark plot points in this show involving assault, so please beware as you continue on with this video if that is a topic that you are sensitive to. I have no idea why this is such a common thing I keep seeing in the anime I review, but it really do be like that, I guess. I genuinely don't know how to feel about this show. I mean, okay, I don't like this show, okay? Yeah. But also, on one hand, some of the writing wasn't the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. I find this show to be at least more interesting than a lot of other ones I've reviewed because it actually does try to tell a story involving love and trauma, with each character having an actual fleshed out story arc and backstory of their own. I can appreciate it when a show tries to tell some kind of actual story with their characters rather than making them just surface level objects to ogle at like a lot of other harem anime tend to do. Rent-a-girlfriend. The wholesome moments between the main character and whatever romantic interest he's trying to pursue can actually be wholesome sometimes, and I admit that some of the scenes made me laugh more than I expected. In fact, I'd say that this anime is the one single show that made me laugh out loud more than other shows that I've seen on my channel because the last few episodes become absolutely ridiculous, and it never stops being ridiculous. And oh my god, the music, man. Okay, I really like the music in this show. It was surprisingly really good and memorable, which also seems to be a common thing I keep seeing in the horrific anime and cursed shit that I review on this channel. I don't get it. It's like they have to make the music really good to distract from whatever garbage is happening on screen. But at the same time, I do have a lot to criticize about the show. Here's the thing about the show. The main cast feels like the Avengers of Who Gives a Fuck. A lot of the show felt like, here's some basic ass characters with tragic backstories, now please care! And some of the stories in this show are for sure extremely tragic and are things that I can see people going through in real life, so I don't want to be too harsh about this. I mean, hell, if I hear about the kinds of stories these characters go through from anyone in real life, I think it's a pretty normal human reaction to feel sympathy for that person, of course. However, as a story to watch and be entertained by as a viewer, I just feel like I needed way more reason to be invested in the story and characters rather than just random trauma. I also don't really like that all these stories feel more like a means to an end rather than an actual story. Like Haru, the main character, helps these girls with whatever issues they're having in their life, and at the end, he's rewarded with sex! And everyone lived happily ever after. Sex! Oh yeah, I know I mentioned this before too, but every single story between Haru, the main character, and a girl ends in a very, very explicit H scene that gives me literal flashbacks to the School Days visual novel, dude. Like, oh my god, the fucking detail in these scenes. I cannot, dude. Oh boy, what is this? Oh, okay. That was really cool. No, I didn't almost shit my pants, okay. And again, because these characters are all high schoolers, it only added to my complete discomfort while watching this show. There's also one storyline that I really didn't like at all. Actually, I think I kind of hated it. The writing felt really backwards and super dismissive of an actual assault victim. And there's one really egregious scene that I genuinely think was so unnecessary and honestly super disgusting. Something that I cannot believe people chose to animate, but we'll talk about this more in depth later in the video. Maybe this is something that not everyone will agree with, but this show feels like a giant indicator of how Japan views mental health and trauma. I mean, Japan's understanding of mental health is, well, behind, to say the least. At least that's my perspective as a Japanese American who has admittedly gone through my own fair share of therapists in my life. It feels like the show portrays a character with severe trauma, then tries to solve that trauma through a simple high school romance, and of course, sex! Sex solved everything! Did your mother abandon you as a child? Sex! Did you grow up extremely sick and lose your parents to a car accident? Sex! Now you're happy! I mean, okay, I'm definitely oversimplifying things, but the way this show is structured makes it feel that way to me. I feel like this show is just a sign that Japan needs better mental health care in general. Literally, all of these characters should be processing their traumas in therapy and actually working through these things, not, well, trying to find your literal biological twin. Having the person you love isn't really gonna make your trauma disappear, you know? All in all, to me, this show feels like one massive form of sympathy baiting. The only way we get to know these characters is through their trauma and nothing else, which in my opinion isn't really good writing. I mean, if in real life, someone you literally just met started trauma dumping on you or getting you dragged into their messy personal life out of nowhere, would you really like that? Also, it does become really hard for me to take any show that has a very central incest story arc seriously because, well, you're trying to f your twin. You're trying to f your twin. I'm going to judge that. Like, what? The show's like, society says it's a taboo. Don't do it. Incest is bad. And I mean, it's not really my place to say who's allowed to love who and whatnot. But at the same time, if you're seriously wholeheartedly trying to dog down your twin, your biological twin, then I am 100% going to be judgmental and not take the story seriously whatsoever, you know? Like, I'm sorry. I just can't take incest seriously as a concept, okay? With all that out of the way, it's now time to really jump into Yosuga no Sora. Let's first start by setting the stage of the story. The anime begins as we see a pair of twins on a train. Meet Haru and Sora Kasugano, twins who are, well, definitely regular twins who definitely don't feel some type of way about each other. These two tragically were orphaned as their parents were killed in a car accident and are in the process of trying to rebuild their shattered life as they travel to their grandparents' countryside residence. I guess this is the Alabama of Japan or something, you know? Since these twins are really trying to dog each other down. God damn! Okay, obviously that's a joke. I'm sure Alabama is a really nice place without family members trying to fall in love with each other romantically, but I just had to take the easy shot there, okay? I'm sorry. Haru, the main protagonist of the show, feels like the words self-insert materialized into the form of an anime boy. He's a very mild-mannered guy and, dude, I'm really trying my best to come up with more ways to describe this character, but there's just nothing. There's nothing. He's just a self-insert character through and through. Meanwhile, Sora, his twin sister, has more of a bratty or spoiled little sister personality with a little tsundere flavor as the cherry on top. I am not a fan of either of these characters, but I'll talk about them more individually as the video goes on. Anyway, as these two try to find their way to their residence, the harem of the story is established. As the twins walk down a long stretch of road, a car passes them, and inside the car is a maid and a daughter of a rich family holding a violin. And as soon as the maid spots Haru, she turns to the other girl, jiggle physics galore, and is like, wow, that dude was so hot! He was so my type, right, milady? I mean, I don't really see it, but sure. Later on at school, this violin girl, while looking at Haru, is also like, wow, my maid was right. He is hot. At the supermarket, we see a girl who seems to work at a shrine, who notices Haru and seems to recognize him, but leaves without saying anything to him. As Sora and Haru ride a bicycle, and Sora has to reluctantly hug her twin brother from behind, except it's definitely not reluctant because this girl is ready to pounce on her twin brother at any moment at this point. I swear to God, at least that's what it felt like to me while watching this show because they kept teasing it. They arrive at the school gates. They bump into another girl riding out of the school gates, and as they both apologize to each other, the girl stares at Haru's face and is like, oh my God, he's so hot! And starts blushing and shit. And on the first day of school, she blushes so damn hard and gets so nervous that she bashes her head into her desk. I swear this guy must look like Jungkook or something, bro. Like, is he not the most basic ass looking generic ass dude in the entire anime verse, or am I tripping? We're also introduced to a girl with glasses who blushes every single time she sees Haru. She calls herself an older sister that Haru is stuck with, but Haru seems to be very standoffish with her. I wonder why. Definitely not because these two have a very fucked up history together, and her story arc is the most backwards ass messed up thing I've ever seen. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. As they get to their grandparents' residence, we learn that the twins actually used to live here or something, or I don't really know the full extent of their history because this show does kind of a god-awful job at telling us, but from what I gathered, their house also doubled as a clinic of some kind, and their parents used to be doctors who helped out the townspeople. Sora always had a weaker body and would be sick a lot, so she ended up spending a lot of time in this clinic to recover. Because of this, Haru and Sora would spend a lot of time away from each other despite being twins. And very tragically, as soon as Sora's health improved significantly, their parents were killed in a car accident. The two, now that they're alone in the world, know and understand that they should stick together because they're the only family they have left. I mean, it is a very sad and tragic beginning to this anime. We're going to watch as these twins learn how to overcome their trauma and come to terms with their parents' death as they make many different connections and live a happy, wholesome life. Right? Right? As Haru goes to school, Sora decides to stay home as she doesn't feel ready to start attending school yet. Due to her history with illness, she was never really able to go to school like a normal kid. We then see a flashback to Haru and Sora's childhood. As they played around in the hospital room, a glass jar almost fell onto Sora's head. However, Haru, being the reliable twin brother, catches the jar and saves her. And then they stare into each other's eyes as Haru sees Sora crying, and then he kisses her on the lips? What? These two are like 10 years old? Hello? Oh, and also they're biological twins? What are these freaks doing? Huh? What the fuck? Huh? What? And as she remembers this memory, Sora begins to blush and shit. Like this is a fond memory of hers. And as Haru comes home late, Sora, who is very clingy, gets kind of upset saying, you're late. I sent you so many texts. She starts to blush cry as she looks at him. Haru then suddenly grabs her shoulder and the two lean in for another makeout session. Except, wow, we got bamboozled because it was just Sora's imagination. Haha, guys, got it. So yeah, Sora really, truly, genuinely deadass for real on God wants her twin brother to just drop everything on the spot and start making out with her. This is a real show. At night, during a thunderstorm, Haru wakes up to see Sora standing in his room. She suddenly says, I want to come, and starts taking her clothes off. What the fuck is happening? She walks towards Haru while blushing, and as the thunder flashes, she says, Haru, and the first episode ends. That is literally the first episode of the show. Like, what do you even say to this insanity that just happened? How do you even process all of this? And of course, as soon as episode 2 begins, it's revealed that Sora actually just wants Haru to take her measurements so that they can make her a school uniform. And when she said, I want to come, she meant, I want to come to school. Not whatever disgusting and nasty imagery you thought of, you sick fuck. What, did you think these twins were actually going to be clapping cheeks Alabama style for real? Ah, you disgusting fool. What a stupid ass bamboozle, man. Oh man, they really trolled us. Haha! I gotta really slap my knee because this was so absolutely hilarious. Of course they're not gonna guys, they're twins. Okay, so anyway, at this point the show starts to segment itself into smaller, self-contained arcs that don't really intertwine at all. Every story arc becomes Haru gets close to one of the girls, he basically heals all their trauma, and then the two bang, the end. First, I want to briefly talk about Haru, the main protagonist. I mean, I mentioned this earlier too, but he is so goddamn boring, it's absolutely insane. If you googled self-insert, this guy's face would come up as the definition, okay? He doesn't have any unique personality traits, well, other than the fact that he's a repressed lustful maniac for his twin sister. He's just a very agreeable and generic nice dude. He basically ends up going above and beyond for these girls because he's so kind and caring. Oh my god, he cares more for others than he cares for himself. How admirable. Every one of the girls in this show just falls in love with this dude because they think he's hot the moment they see him. And look, if this was like Gojo Satoru or something, I'd totally understand that. But really? This guy? I don't know. I've never seen a protagonist more generic and self-insert coded, yet somehow also the least relatable, because I don't think I've ever, for a single time in my life, ever wanted to do anything to my own blood family like he wants to do to his. I mean, I feel like he could be an interesting character, I guess, with a tragic loss of his parents and being forced to grow up early even though he's still only in high school. But this tragic backstory of his dead parents is rarely explored and mostly used to just bridge the gap between his lips and his twin sister's lips. Like, this part of their story barely comes up or barely seems to affect them, despite it being a horrible tragedy. I don't know, man. He's also written to be such a kind
and agreeable person
that despite being a victim of SA himself, he doesn't even see it that way and actually worries more about the perpetrator of this incident rather than himself. And again, I'll talk about this storyline in more depth later in the video, but I don't know if you can tell why I'm not a fan of this writing, and I think it's very clear at this point what my least favorite story arc in this entire show was. And before we move on to talking about the girls in the harem, let me briefly talk about another side character, Yohei. He's this dude that randomly spawns into the show as the sort of bro character to Haru. His entire personality is like he wants to peep at girls and is obsessed with Sora and spends more than half his screen time simping over her. It's too bad for Yohei because Sora's not interested in any men outside of people in her own blood family. He's not that important of a character and serves more as a comedic relief for the most part. Every time the topic of Sora comes up, he just cannot help himself. The moment he sees Sora for the first time, he's like, wow, Haru, amazing! And gawks at Sora to the point where she hides behind Haru. He then says, Sora should sit maybe diagonally in front of me so I can check her out all day. Again, not very important, but just wanted to mention that he exists because he does come up a few times. Now it's time to move on to the actual romantic interests and their storylines. First up, meet Kazuha, a daughter of a rich family and a player of the violin or viola or some kind of string instrument, and Akira, a very bubbly and happy-go-lucky shrine girl who works and lives at a shrine. Akira lives alone at the shrine without any parents, and her backstory seems to be a mystery as multiple people tell Haru to back off and he tries to find out more. Their stories are very intertwined, so I have to introduce you to them together. I won't even lie, dog. These two storylines had me snoozing half the time. I don't want to seem like I'm being disrespectful because their stories do involve some serious stuff, like broken family relationships, but at the same time, after witnessing the absolute insanity that was the first episode, these storylines just felt so generic in comparison. Like, I'm sorry, okay? If you show me a pair of twins full-on kissing each other on the lips, my attention is going to be more on that story arc rather than any actual non-blood family related story arc in the show. Anyways, Kazuha the violin girl and Akira the shrine girl both start off as Haru's classmates. They seem really close as we see Kazuha the violin girl scold Akira the shrine girl a lot for not taking care of herself as much as she should. At some point during a pool cleaning day, Akira ends up destroying all of her classmates as she shoots a water hose at everyone else around her. Unfortunately, Kazuha, who was unable to participate that day, is also hit by the water. Haru goes to check if she's okay and oh no! They're both embarrassed because her bra can be seen through her shirt. Oh my god! Anyways, Akira takes Kazuha to the girls' locker room to clean up as Haru notices that Kazuha had dropped her phone on the ground. He tries to return it but is unsure how to because they are in the girls' locker room. As he stands at the door, he hears some real sus shit and some noises behind the door. And it sounds like they're literally clapping cheeks in there? I mean, it turns out it's just Akira digging her fingers into Kazuha's ears, but Haru's imagination goes absolutely wild. However, in a shocking twist, Kazuha calls Akira One-chan or big sister, which absolutely shocks Haru. This is where the story path begins to split between the two girls. So now we'll just focus on Kazuha, the violin girl. Kazuha's kind of really boring, to be honest. She's a rich girl. She plays instruments. She's kind of a tsundere, but in a more dignified way because she's a rich girl. She's also tough on Akira and seems kind of scary.
But Haru thinks she's a really nice person because he's been watching her the whole time or something.
I don't know, man. It's hard to describe some of these characters when they just feel so surface level, other than the fact that they're severely traumatized by something. As Haru walks home wondering what was happening behind those cursed locked doors of the girls' locker room, Kazuha ends up catching up with him and asking if he was eavesdropping. And Haru's like,
well, I mean, as long as you're happy together, you know, you can do whatever you want.
And Kazuha's obviously like,
okay, bro, you literally have the wrong fucking idea.
It's revealed to us that Akira is actually Kazuha's sister, as they share the same father, but they have a different mother. Kazuha believed that her father threw Akira out without any support, which is why Akira lives alone at the shrine. Kazuha had decided that she'd do anything for Akira because of this. We then watch as Haru and Kazuha bond over time, you know, like sharing an indirect kiss through a ramen bottle. Oh my god, so scandalous! Later, he holds her hand and says,
won't you play your viola for me next time?
And she's like,
I don't have any confidence, but someday.
Oh my god, so romantic! And as they prepare for a summer festival together, which is a recurring and important event throughout the series, he ends up getting distracted because, oh my god, his eyes look down and he couldn't help but just look at her cleavage. And Kazuha's like,
what's going on here?
And the other old ladies and dudes are like, well, you're pretty, so you can't blame him for being mesmerized. Unfortunately, we learned that her relationship with her father is extremely strained. Her father had gifted her a violin as a child, and she was so passionate about it that she would practice into late nights because she really loved when her dad would praise her. At some point, as Haru and Kazuha hang out, they spot her father with Akira in the distance. After a brief interaction, Haru wonders if their father had come to check in on Akira. Kazuha, however, doubts this, thinking that her father was only there to boost his image as an important figure in the town and doesn't give a shit about Akira. Kazuha says it's the same thing every year. Akira does an offering dance during the summer festival, and their father leaves right after the dance without rewarding Akira in any way, despite being her father. After Haru takes her out on a fun date, Haru says,
I wanted you to be your regular self again. Just like you want to look out for Akira, I wanted to do the same thing for you.
The two then end up getting real close to each other, and then they start to make out. Wow! Unfortunately, Akira had overworked herself and had gone missing. They find her at the shrine on the ground, clearly not okay. This causes Kazuha to feel guilty, saying,
I was obsessing over you, Haru, and this caused me to throw Akira off to the side and forget about her. Isn't this what my father did?
Akira, who seems to have recovered a bit, asks Kazuha,
how's your viola? How's it going with Haru?
Kazuha says there's nothing between her and Haru, and that it's her responsibility to live and think for Akira's sake. Akira then asks, do you like Haru more than me? Or will you love only me? And kisses Kazuha on the lips, but she pushes Akira off. I mean, I guess that's one way to make a point to your sister about true love and who you really love or whatever. Akira says that she's happy with everything and that their father is a good person, and Kazuha just pushes herself for the sole reason of blaming their father for everything. Kazuha eventually shuts herself into her room, even missing Akira's birthday party that she planned herself. It also turns out that Kazuha's birthday is on the same day as well, so Akira motivates Haru to celebrate it for her. Haru later brings a gift to Kazuha's residence and asks their maid to leave it in the room for her. Now it's the night of the summer festival. Kazuha ends up coming to the festival and sees Haru for the first time in a while. She thanks him for the nice gift. It was a music box with a note saying,
I want to see you. I'll be waiting forever.
Or some shit, I don't know. She says she wanted to tell him how she felt, but she couldn't help but blame herself for being so selfish. The two go around the festival as Kazuha explains that she learned Akira was her sister from another mother when the owner of the shrine passed away. Kazuha's mother didn't want anything to do with Akira apparently because, well, I guess she was a product of infidelity. I'm not 100% sure, but Kazuha believes this was no reason to just throw Akira out like she doesn't matter. We also learned that Akira was a foster child raised by the old man at the shrine, and no one wanted to take her in when he died. A lady at a nearby candy shop took her in, but she doesn't have enough money to cover her schooling and necessities. So I guess it turns out that her father is still paying for stuff and supporting Akira, and there's not much else he can do given the circumstance that his wife wants absolutely nothing to do with Akira, is what I got from this. Again, the anime doesn't do a very great job at explaining all this. It becomes really fucking confusing at some point to me. Anyways, Haru responds to Kazuha saying,
didn't he make this mistake before you were born? Isn't it because he thought it over and became a good father that you love him? You should believe in him. Why do you even continue the viola anyway? You should look straight at your father instead of avoiding his gaze, right?
Later, Kazuha witnesses her father patting Akira on the head like he would do for Kazuha, and she begins to cry as she realizes that this whole time, her father had truly loved Akira. Kazuha and her father approach each other, and the screen fades out as we're made to assume that they started the process of repairing their strained relationship. Kazuha herself is unsure if she can have a good relationship with her father, but she feels like she can try harder with Haru at her side. She thanks him and the two say, "I love you," to each other as they go in for a kiss. We finally get to see an actual viola performance at the shrine as Haru and Akira watch. As this beautiful classic music plays, it is joined by the loud percussion of cheeks being clapped. We get a very sudden flashback to Haru and Kazuha having sex. Like straight up, it's a school days visual novel type of scene, except thankfully it doesn't go for like 10 to 15 goddamn minutes like every scene in the visual novel did. But it's still very explicit and definitely not something I can show on YouTube without losing my job. All I can really say is that this was way more detailed than I expected, and I have a feeling I know where most of the animation budget for this show went. As Haru daydreams about their earlier rendezvous, Kazuha stops playing the viola and asks,
Are you daydreaming?
She then tells him,
I'm glad you heard my song.
as this storyline comes to a close. Before really giving my thoughts about Kazuha's storyline, I first think I should tell you about the next storyline as well, which involves Akira, the shrine girl. So Akira is a very bubbly girl who's the archetype of, hiding everything behind a smile and continuing to smile despite actually being sad, but she can never show anyone else that she's sad. There is an explanation as to why she's like this, and it is a very sad backstory, but I'm also just not the biggest fan of this archetype personally. We learn early on that Akira lives alone at the shrine and she doesn't have any parents with her. The one guardian figure she has is a lady who runs a candy shop nearby as they eat dinner together frequently. When Haru tries to investigate what's up with Akira's history, he's told multiple times to leave the topic alone for some mysterious reason. Anyways, Akira's storyline rewinds to the point where Haru's trying to return Kazuha's phone to them, but doesn't know how to as he stands outside of the girls' locker room. We see the shocking twist that reveals the two girls' status as siblings, but this time, Akira comes out of the room and realizes that Haru had heard the truth about their situation. Akira explains to Haru pretty much everything that we already learned from the previous storyline. Akira continues to be her bubbly, happy self despite the sudden shocking reveal, and as Akira jumps off a ledge, of course, Haru gets a full panty shot and gets embarrassed. Oh my god! Later, it's revealed that Haru actually does know Akira from their childhood, as they had spent a summer festival together. We see that Akira had a necklace given to her as the last memory of her mother. As the two kids look for cicadas, Akira ends up falling off of a tree and losing her pendant in the forest. They were never able to find that necklace, and it turns out that she doesn't have any other mementos of her mom. But it's fine! Akira is a bubbly and happy-go-lucky girl. Everything's fine! As they say goodbye, though, Haru runs back to see that Akira was indeed not fine and was very distressed when left on her own. Remembering this causes Haru to begin acting up. He goes to school early and sees Akira make the same distressed face as she looks at a happy family in the distance. However, as soon as she notices Haru, she begins being her bubbly self again. Haru asks her,
We met a long time ago, right?
and Akira says thank you and hugs him, happy that Haru remembers her. She says that she's been waiting all this time. Wow, how romantic. Anyways, Haru then begins to try his best to make Akira happy. He dresses up in full Indiana Jones garb as he takes her on a search for the pendant despite it being years and the land literally doesn't exist anymore because of a landslide. He tells her that he wants her to keep smiling forever, so he'll never give up, causing Akira to cry and say, I love you, under her breath. Later, as Haru takes a bath at the shrine, Akira suddenly also walks into the bath and joins him. She says that whenever the old shrine owner, the man who took care of her before he passed away, would take a bath, she would say, Yahoo! And join him as a kid, and it reminded of her past. As they share a quiet, peaceful bath time, Akira suddenly says, Here I come! And goes into the bath with him. But because it's embarrassing to be face to face, she ends up sitting on his legs instead. Okay, I mean, sure. She said she used to sit on the old shrine owner's lap like this too, but then as she sits down on Haru's lap, she's like, Whoa, what was that? I felt something hard. And Haru's like, well, yeah, I can't help it. And Akira then says, Are you interested? And whatever, they start making out and then the screen fades to black. Haru asks Akira if her mom passed away, and Akira says she's not sure. Haru says they should look for her because there might be records of her mom in his family clinic. Haru starts to investigate but notices that one of the notebooks from the old patient documents is missing. It's the night of the summer festival. Haru and Sora witness Kazuha and Akira with another lady in the distance. It's Kazuha's mother, the one that hates Akira or wants nothing to do with her. As she walks towards Akira, Akira looks terrified and unsure of what to do, and then moves out of the way and says good evening while bowing. Kazuha's mother mother completely ignores her, which angers Kazuha, but Akira smiles again and runs away to get ready for her dance. As Akira dances on stage, Haru notices that she's crying on stage while dancing and tells everyone he'll be right back as the dance ends. It's revealed that Akira actually has the missing notebook from Haru's clinic, and Haru sees this and he asks what's written in there, but Akira tries to burn the book on a stovetop. Haru prevents this as he opens the book and learns what's in there. It turns out that Kazuha and Akira's mom were both transferred to the same hospital. Akira had ripped the pendant off of the mother's necklace, the one she showed Haru in the earlier flashback, the one that's supposed to be her mom's memento, but the one who pulled the pendant was actually supposed to be Kazuha? Honestly, I don't know if it's my lukewarm temperature IQ or if the writing for this just genuinely sucked ass, but it was so hard to understand what the fuck this shit was even talking about. But it seems as though there was a chance that Kazuha and Akira were mixed up as babies, and it might be possible that Akira actually is Kazuha's mom's true biological daughter. This all culminates to Haru saying they should do DNA tests to find out the truth, all for Akira. However, obviously this comes with a lot of potential consequences and could literally change people's lives. Haru's unsure of what to do until Akira tells him that they should stop hanging out together. Akira says that she likes being with him, but she doesn't want to fall in love because eventually everyone goes away. Her mom left and went somewhere. Her old shrine caretaker passed away. She's afraid of being alone again. Even the pendant disappeared too, and there's nothing that won't disappear. Haru tells Kazuha about the situation, and depending on the results of the DNA test, it might also change Kazuha's life. However, Haru cannot stand that Akira has to carry all of this alone. Kazuha agrees to this as she loves Akira as well. We then see some of Akira's past. She had overheard her old caretaker arguing with some other people. She overhears a lady say, "Isn't that the girl that no one wants?" Which is an absolutely insane and super shitty thing to say about any child. Of course, this shit makes Akira sad because who wouldn't be sad hearing something like this? But then the old caretaker begins to yell back, saying he wants to protect her smile, which I guess is why Akira smiles so much despite her adversities. Although they tell Akira that the DNA test results will be available soon, and she seems to be down to hear it out, on the day they come out, Akira is nowhere to be found. Haru finds her at the station and apologizes for overdoing it, although Akira says he wasn't in the wrong, which, I mean, look, I feel like this is something that the actual person involved in the family, aka Akira herself, should have decided, and not Haru, but whatever. Later, Kazuha, Akira, and Haru gather as Akira opens up the test results. However, before reading it, she breaks down, saying she just can't do it, which honestly, super totally understandable. She says she always watched how Kazuha and her mom would interact and would always feel jealous, but she doesn't want to destroy their relationship. Suddenly, Kazuha's mom approaches them and we find out the truth. Kazuha's mom had the pendant that Akira lost as a kid because, well, the pendant was hers. Someone had returned it to her because her name was engraved on it, and Akira was unable to just read it back then. She says that because Akira's mom wouldn't really play with her baby, Kazuha's mom ended up picking her up one day because she was just so adorable. This was when Akira ripped off Kazuha's mom's pendant. Unfortunately, Akira's real mother ended up passing away soon after, so Kazuha's mom gave Akira the pendant because she wanted Akira to have the memory of a mother, even if it was a lie. Akira opens up the test result, which reveals that it is a negative test. Kazuha's mom is indeed Kazuha's mom. Kazuha's mom explains that she learned the truth of how Akira came to be, aka her own husband, I guess, cheated on her or something, and this ended up causing Kazuha's mom to turn her back on Akira. She knew that it wasn't Akira's fault, but she was unable to face the truth, and she wonders if she can start finding the feelings of love and care like she did back then. She puts the pendant on Akira and apologizes for everything that happened up to now. Akira cries and thanks Kazuha's mom as the two embrace. Later, Akira thanks Haru for everything. The two say they love each other, and as they go in for a kiss, it suddenly cuts to Akira without any clothing on, and the two are having That's right, it's here! The obligatory victory scene! We've conquered a trauma final boss, and now they can have I think the funniest part of this entire scene is just the fact that despite having nothing else on, Akira made sure to wear the pendant while the two clapped cheeks. Like, it just feels incredibly hilarious to me that after all of this very sad and tragic backstory and the resolution of messy family matters, this pendant during sex is supposed to serve as some kind of symbolism for how Akira conquered her past or something? I don't know. Anyways, the two squeeze in bed as Akira says, "Let's be together forever, Haru-kun." And Haru responds, "Yeah, Akira." And her storyline comes to a close. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you can see why I was so checked out of the show at this point. Like, after watching episode 1, I'm sorry, but these storylines were so whatever to me, man. I also feel like maybe it's just a time constraint of having only 12 episodes to tell the entire story of this visual novel, but I felt like the story wasn't told very well. Like, I'm still very unclear on all of the details when it comes to the lore on Kazuha and Akira's family, her dad, her mom, and all that shit. It felt like they just shoved a bunch of lore down my throat and called it a day. I don't want to comment on the actual plot points themselves involving family relations as well as Akira's past, because those are tragic things, and I'm sure that a lot of people do actually go through things like this in real life, and I don't feel like it's really my place to critique how well this story involving their family and parenthood was written. However, I do feel like they were not only really rushed, but also told in such a confusing way that I'm still really struggling to put everything together. And like I said earlier, it all just felt more like a means to an end to get to the fated important scene. Yes! Anyways, I honestly don't want to spend any more time talking about these plot lines, because while they were sad and tragic, they pale in comparison to the insanity that comes afterwards. Now, speaking of insanity, let's move on to the next romantic subplot of the show involving this girl named Nao. Nao is the glasses-wearing girl who I think is a year older than Haru.
She's also Haru and Sora's next-door neighbor.
The two seem to have shared some kind of history as it's teased throughout the show, but that history is way darker than anyone could ever imagine. And just a heads up, this storyline involves assault. Nao's storyline is easily my least favorite one in the show, and one that I felt had probably the most issues, which feels insane to me to say out loud, because somehow this storyline felt more egregious to me than the one involving actual biological twins intermingling with each other in intimate ways, because at least that was consensual. The story with Nao rewinds all the way back to the events of episode 1. We're introduced to Nao early on in the show, and she seems to know Haru from the past, but things seem a bit tense between them. We then see a flashback where Nao is crying at a bus stop as she tells Haru to go away from her multiple times. Despite this, Haru ends up getting very close to her and saying, "You're cuter when you smile, Nao-chan." Back in the present, Nao and Haru share a few awkward conversations, while Sora shows signs of seeming very angry as if she's not the biggest fan of Nao. However, it seems like Nao does seem to hold some feelings for Haru, and at some point it seems as though everyone around them tries their best to get them together. Ryohei takes Haru up to the school roof and invites him to stare at the girls cleaning the pool through a pair of binoculars until Haru is like,
You can't be staring at Nao-chan like that.
and Ryohei's like, huh? I didn't say anything about Nao, dude. Bro literally exposing himself at this point. However, when Ryohei comments on Nao's abdomen area that looks like a particular kind of large round fruit, we get the strangest briefest flashback to a scene of what seems to be Haru and Nao getting intimate in the past. Remembering this makes Haru quiet down and leave without saying much for some reason. Meanwhile, Ryohei tells Nao that Haru seems to have feelings for her and she should just go out with the prince that you never thought you could see again. However, Nao says that Haru hates her, and this is impossible. As we see the obligatory bath scene for Nao, we get a brief flashback to what truly happened in the past between the two. Nao's parents used to argue all the time back then, and at some point, Nao became way too overwhelmed by her turbulent home life. This caused her to run off to Haru's house, and the situation ended up with Nao assaulting a clueless young Haru. First off, as much as I really don't want to keep having to address this stuff in my videos, it just seems to continue to come up in these trashy anime that I watch. I have no idea what Japan's obsession is with putting sexual assault and such direct portrayals of it in their media. Not only that, we also have to consider that the scene, which obviously I can't show on YouTube, was pretty much fully animated, including Haru laying there shocked and unsure how to respond after Nao had, again, assaulted him. And we also have to consider the fact that this animated scene contained not only these horrific acts on screen, but a portrayal of very young children committing and being hurt by these acts. At this point, it's not my first time seeing something like this in an anime I've watched on this channel, but to this day, I've still yet to be able to find any sort of artistic merit to portraying this kind of thing in media. And the fact that people use this to enjoy themselves makes me even more sick. Anyways, yeah, that happened between the two, and as Haru lays there in shock, Nao runs away. And that is why these two have this weird, awkward tension between them. Back to the present, Nao and Haru end up talking and spending more time again due to various circumstances, until Nao ends up at Haru's place to help out with Sora's school uniform. As the two say they like being around each other, they are about to make out, but Sora barges into the room and interrupts, and leaves without really saying much to Nao. Their friends also continue their silly little hijinks to try to get Haru and Nao together. This eventually ends up in the two being tricked into going to the school pool on a Sunday, which ends up with Nao teaching Haru how to swim. Oh yeah, a big thing about Haru is that he doesn't know how to swim. See, he's such a boring character that I literally forgot this about him, but this is something that comes up later, so just remember that. Later, the two end up in the girls' locker room. Suddenly, a staff member's like, is someone there? And I guess they're not supposed to be there because the two end up hiding in a large box together until the staff member leaves. Wow, bonding moment. They laugh so much that the box breaks. Oh no! And then Nao falls on top of it, and of course, he gets a full view of her chest. Oh no! Being in this position reminds them of their previous encounter, which causes Nao to back off and apologize. She explains that back then, her parents would argue in the house all the time, and that's why she ran to his place and the incident happened. Well, to be clear, the assault happened. Haru then responds that he actually didn't dislike it back then, but was just very shocked because it was his first time and was unsure of how to respond or react that day. He says that they can move on from this starting today, now. The two then kiss and whatever, I don't know. This whole conversation really didn't sit too right with me, but let's keep going. Meanwhile, we see Sora type in a computer over and over and over again, just one sentence. Now sickens me. Yeah, she really hates Nao, dude. Haru promises Nao that he'll tell Sora about the two and make it work. Good luck with that, bro. Sora continues to completely dodge and show her disdain towards Nao as she attempts to bridge the gap between them as well. One night, as they look through a photo book of their memories as children, Nao gets sad that the pictures stop at some point. Haru responds,
We should just fill it with more memories then.
they then end up kissing each other on the lips and start getting giddy with each other. Meanwhile, Sora is in the other room and she smells some delicious curry and goes to check it out until she starts to hear some noises? Is that moaning? What is going on? She suddenly opens the door and can only stare in shock as the two are railing and they're like, Sora-chan! After this, Sora angrily kicks Nao out of the house and angrily yells, acting like you're my sister and then forcing yourself between Haru and me like nothing. It's just like that summer. You're trying to steal Haru again. It's revealed that Sora had actually witnessed these assault years ago, but didn't know what was actually happening since they were young. She just knew it was something bad. Sora angrily tells Nao to never show herself in front of Haru again. Nao begins to completely avoid Haru at this point as Haru hears from Ryohei that Nao was never the same ever since that one summer day, referring to the day where she assaulted Haru. Somehow this turned into Haru thinking to himself, since that day, Nao has been suffering alone. At this rate, it'll just end up being the same as back then. Haru finally catches up to Nao at a grocery store while he tells her, we finally got to start over again. This way it's just like before. Let's apologize to Sora and have her accept us. At some point, Sora's clinginess for Haru starts going out of control as she increasingly tries to not let Haru go out. And it's to the point where when Nao comes by to get Haru, Sora literally asks him, who will you choose, me or her? To Sora's shock, Haru ends up going towards Nao. I mean, is this not absolutely insane to anyone else? One night, Haru gets a text from Sora that says, let's leave this place. Sora is nowhere to be found and everyone searches for her as Haru feels like this is his fault for pushing her into a corner. Nao ends up finding Sora at the bus stop that she and Haru shared their childhood crying moments from. Nao tries to give her hand to Sora and tells her to come home, but Sora slaps it away and begins to run off. She tells Nao that she's scared that Haru will throw her away and he's changed since he met Nao. Suddenly, thunder strikes the shed, causing the bus stop to go on fire. Sora sees her stuffed bunny plushie that she always carries around, a gift from her late mother, still in there and begins to freak out. Nao suddenly runs into the fire and manages to save the bunny and gives it to Sora. Sora says that she was scared to be alone after the loss of her parents and she wouldn't know what to do if she lost Haru too. It seems as though things between Sora and Nao are improving after this, as on the day of the summer festival, Sora tells Haru, you should invite that other lady too, referring to Nao. Everyone goes to the summer festival and has a good time, especially Haru and Nao, who end up having their obligatory victory scene in the forest behind the festival. Wow! Everything and everyone is okay and happy. The end. At least it's the end of Nao's story. Wait, what? Okay, so first off, there is a few things that I just cannot comprehend about this entire story arc. A, is Sora angry at Nao because she wants to defend her twin brother from someone who violated him and potentially caused him lifelong trauma? Or is she angry because she's jealous of the fact that her twin brother that she loves romantically is spending time with another girl that's not herself? I mean, the answer becomes very clear after watching the show, but while watching the show, I was just in shock at how ridiculous it all is. I mean, Sora's priority is to bang her brother rather than worry about him hanging out with the person that traumatized him potentially. Like, what? It's like no one in the show considers that event a assault when clearly that's what was depicted on the screen, and they only care about romancing with Haru-chan or some bullshit, which is absolutely insane to me. And B, is this not ass backwards to anyone else, this entire situation? Like, I don't even know how to unpack this. First off, Haru is a victim in this situation while Nao is the perpetrator. Sure, Nao was going through some awful shit back then too, but I don't think that or anything really is an excuse for literally assaulting someone. And then we're taking on this journey where we're supposed to feel sympathetic for Nao's character because she was depressed and suffering ever since the day she another person, and then Haru starts feeling bad for Nao, and oh, also, he ended up liking it in the end anyway, so what Nao did back then is completely okay and not addressed at all after that. And then we're supposed to be happy that these two get together in the end? What? Imagine trying to explain this story arc to someone you know. I don't like being that guy, but imagine this storyline, but if they switch the guy and the girl. If Haru's the one that did this to Nao during her childhood, and the story is that Nao not completely downplays the incident, but rather feels sympathy for Haru because he has the guilt of hurting someone else that badly, and then they happily fall in love with each other. I don't know, man. Either way, I'm just not a fan of this storyline whatsoever, regardless of who or what or where or why or how. I'm not saying this is a storyline that can't be told, but there is a difference between actually trying to tell a story involving sexual assault versus using sexual assault as a vehicle to make these characters then fall in love with each other and somehow it's clean and okay. It just left a horrible taste in my mouth after watching it. It just felt so off, despite how the anime presented it as this happy resolution and whatnot. I really feel like Haru and Nao should be processing these emotions and feelings from their past incidents in multiple sessions with a goddamn therapist instead of dogging each other down in the forest. Like, maybe I'm the one that's ignorant, but I really hated this story arc, man. It just sucks. I don't know how else to really put it. Now, before we move on to the real meat of the show, which is the last few episodes involving Sora, let me briefly talk about some other characters that aren't important at all but showed up. Remember that Kazuha, the violin girl, has a maid? I mean, yeah, I forgot too, because she shows up like 3 times in the main story, and she mainly has like a little funny post-episode storyline, you know, the little chibi anime series they tend to do after the ending of an episode in a lot of shows. But honestly, I literally could not give less of a fuck about all of this or this character, so let's move on. Oh, remember the class president character, you know, the one who's just smitten by how hot she thinks Haru is and falls in love with him because she thinks he's so hot? Yeah, I mean, she pretty much disappeared for like 95% of the series and then comes back to play a pretty important role in the last storyline, so I'll just make sure to remind you guys that she does indeed exist. Now, it's time to move on to the storyline that I'm sure most of you are waiting for. The storyline involving the romance between Haru and his biological twin sister, Sora. So I'm sure you can kind of get a gist of what Sora's like based on what I've described so far, but again, she's this bratty sort of little sister or archetype character who's also sick with a case of severe tsundere. I'm sure that's what had her bedridden when she was young. Oh, sorry. That was kind of mean. She spends literally 90% of the show being bored or jealous of Haru from the shadows while making it as obvious as possible to the audience that she does indeed want to bang her twin brother. Sora's storyline begins with Haru and Nao reconciling from their past and wondering if they should tell Sora about their relationship. Haru decides that he won't tell Sora just yet because it's kind of embarrassing, and the two say bye. We then see a sudden flashback to their childhood. Haru's mom prepares dinner as Sora comes home from the hospital for the first time. For some reason, Haru starts to blush while he looks at her, and then Sora turns into her present day form and then starts to go into kiss Haru on the lips, and then Haru wakes up from this dream while sweating profusely. What is wrong with these fucking twins, bro? While measuring Sora's body to make her school uniform, Haru accidentally touches her chest and she's like, "You just touched him." And he's like, "No, I didn't." Sora responds, "But you want to?" Haru panics and responds, "Don't joke like that, you idiot." But then after this, Haru begins to fucking spiral out of control. He's like, I need to calm down. I'm going out with Nao-chan. I'm dating Nao-chan, but what are these uncontrollable feelings I'm having for Sora? Oh no! At some point, bro becomes literally unable to hold it together around his twin sister. It eventually gets to the point where it's clear that it's distracting from his actual relationship with Nao. Although Nao and Haru try to continue dating, it's clear that Sora is the thing that's constantly on the back of his mind. Over time, Sora starts to become a bit more bold, and she tries to keep Haru away from Nao as much as possible and just to herself. Nao believes that she's never gonna win Sora over, as her expression constantly screams, "I'll never give you Oni-chan." Haru says, "She always just orders me around and doesn't respect me at all." Oh, how wrong you are, Haru. At night, Haru suddenly hears Sora call out his name. Wondering why, he peeks into her room and sees her, well, enjoying herself while saying Haru, her biological twin's name. She's like, "I love you, Haru. I love you so much." And it just keeps going. And for some reason, Haru, seeing this, begins to cry and break down at the door while peeking in and watching his biological twin sister. Nao and Haru end up going on a date, but Haru is so distracted by what Sora was doing before, and as the date comes to a close, we witness the second worst scene of this entire show, as the tables turn, and this time, Haru is so overtaken by the feelings of, "I wanna bang my twin sister, but I socially can't," and ends up grabbing Nao, dragging her to a love hotel, and throwing onto the bed and trying to force himself on her. Obviously, I'm not gonna show it, but yeah, we get another one of these assault scene, so I don't know. Everyone just fucking sucks in this show, I guess. Like, everyone just sucks. Thanks, man. I love being forced to witness multiple instances of assault while watching anime. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. Obvious sarcasm aside, I mean, it has to be somebody's favorite thing because it happens way too much in these trashy anime, man. Jesus Christ. As Nao tells him to stop while crying, she ends up pushing him off and backing off. Haru apologizes as Nao asks if he really loves her. Haru responds that he doesn't know. We then see Haru in the library doing some important research as the class president, if you guys remember her, approaches him and just asks, "What you reading?" And Haru's like, "Oh, you know, history
history books, research. I just, I learned there were incestuous marriages in old Japan and Europe.
While the screen highlighted words from the book like incest or taboo. I mean, you just cannot make this shit up, brother. The class press is like, that kind of relationship exists in manga and shows, but it would be awkward in real life, right? And Haru responds,
Yeah, totally.
Haru gets home to find that Sora has developed a fever so bad that she's sweating and can't stop. Oh no, I guess the twin brother now has to take her clothes off so he can wipe her down and take care of her. Oh my god. Haru keeps saying Sora's name over and over again as he wipes her down, and later that day, Haru wakes up to Sora kissing him on the lips and saying, I can't endure it anymore. When you touched parts of me while wiping me down, it felt so good. I really tried to fight this feeling, and when I woke up, you were by my side and my heart started to race. I can't hold back anymore. I love you, Haru. I love you more than anything. The two finally declared her more than biological twin romantic love for each other, and finally, we get the fated incest scene. That's right. This show features a legitimate biological twin in scene, which even for my channel, I don't actually think this has happened before. What the is this Alabama shit, brother? I feel like I'm living in Alabama. Just watch this goddamn scene, brother. Hey, yo, why do I suddenly feel like I want to Anyways, the two start getting very, very close. Noticeably so. Even to the point where their friends start noticing how close the two have been acting. Some might say they've been too close. She even starts trying to cook for Haru and doing all this household shit like they're an actual married couple. At some point, the class president approaches Haru and asks if he's not being too intimate with Sora. Haru at home thinks about his prior conversation with the class press until he notices that Sora had literally spawned underneath the table right next to his legs. She says, you seem depressed, so I'm gonna cheer you up. And Haru says, no,
Someone told me it's too intimate. It's weird because we're siblings.
Sora says, it's not weird. We're just special. Unlike normal siblings, we were separated for a long time. And then she begins to give a glizzy gobble so amazing that it makes Haru stop thinking about that conversation and start saying,
Oh, you're amazing.
this shit is so fucking weird, dude. When people say, I feel like this is the type of shit they think of. The twins arrived to school late because they were too busy hooking up with each other. And as soon as school ends, Haru dashes out to meet with Sora and they go home. The class president witnesses this, and later, as she locks the classroom up, she notices a cell phone ringing under the table. It's Haru's cell phone. When they get home, Haru and Sora literally begin dogging each other down at their front door. What is this crazy shit? And as they get giggity, the class president bumps into Nao, and the two end up walking to Haru's residence to return his phone. Unfortunately, the twins continue to have extraordinarily intense sex as the two unfortunate clueless classmates approach their door to hear some moaning noises. Look at this shit! You know what's happening behind those doors right now? And these two are just discovering the horrors that hide behind this house. The two of them realize what's going on inside as the class president barges in to see the horrible truth. The reveal. Oh no, don't approach that door. Don't approach that door. She knows exactly what's going on. No, don't open that door. Don't open that door. You crazy. And then this is the first frame of the fucking ending. That's right, the class president had walked in on her crush, absolutely railing his biological twin sister from behind. All everyone could do for a moment is stare in shock as the class president runs off. Now then says sorry, closes the door, and leaves. Despite what just transpired, Sora doesn't seem to give a shit as she tells Haru, look at me, and only look at me, and kisses him on the cheek, dude. It's such a dumbass show. That's such a dumb show, I can't. Haru walks into the classroom to see that the class president's eyes were extremely red. It's obvious that she was crying a lot. She approaches Haru outside the school, saying she won't tell anyone else, but that shit is weird, and it's not something a normal human would do, which I don't really disagree with. I don't think that's a very hot take. She says she liked him and thought he was a nice, level-headed person, but never wants to talk to him again. Later, Nao also talks to Haru, saying she had a feeling, but wanted to be wrong about it. Haru says it's because Sora and he were apart for so long, and when she returned, she was no longer the sister he knew. She had become a fragile, beautiful girl. She made his heartbeat faster. Dude, again, it's your twin sister. Haru explains that because Sora never opened up to anyone, when she relied on him, his heart would only beat faster. But that's his sister. That's why he knew he couldn't cross that line. He explains that he tried to turn his relationship with Nao into a real love, which is kind of twisted because at this point, both of them have tried to or have assaulted the other at some point. But anyway, he apologizes to Nao for how he ended up hurting her. At night, Sora happily tells Haru that dinner's ready, but Haru looks sunken and depressed. Sora asks if nothing's changed and asks for a kiss, but Haru initially avoids it until he suddenly pushes her onto the bed and begins to, do stuff. And then Sora begins to smile, saying, "It's okay, my brains out. If you want to do so, then please do." Okay, so Haru, however, begins to cry. He says they should stop doing all of this, which upsets Sora. He's like,
It's because we're siblings.
Sora says, "Why can't siblings kiss? Why can't siblings have sex? Are you afraid that no one will accept us? I don't care about that. I know we have a lot of problems coming up, but I want to deal with them. I'll even have your children." Haru responds,
Reality isn't that simple.
Sora responds, "Then forget about that reality." Haru then slaps Sora across the face while saying,
Don't say that so casually.
Sora then angrily walks out of the room. I mean, what the fuck is this argument, dude? At the dinner table, Haru explains that he got a message from their uncle telling them that he's coming back to Japan, and he's talked with their aunt. They notice that Sora and Haru are low on money, so they both agree to each take one of them in, meaning that the twins will be separated. Haru says this is for the best, but Sora walks out after breaking a bunch of shit. Haru wakes up during the night to a message from Sora saying, "I know I'm your sister, but I want to kiss you and do things with you, but this is just causing issues for you. Sorry." Sora is now missing, and Haru goes on the search. Nao ends up joining him on the search and later reveals that Sora had told her, "Now we're even," referring to the incident back when Nao essayed Haru. I mean, I don't understand what the hell this is about or how any of this is sane or okay to get even with someone who SA'd your twin, I guess. But, we are already so beyond the point of rationality that I don't even know what else to say at this point. Haru then remembers a certain lake that was mentioned earlier in the series and runs there to find Sora in the lake and calls out for her. Sora yells, "Don't come here," and keeps running away from him until she loses her footing in the water. And Haru also tries to catch her. And if you remember from earlier, Haru doesn't know how to swim, and I don't think Sora does either. The two struggle as they both sink into the water, and Haru wonders if he's going to die and apologizes to Sora, but thinks maybe this is for the best. If they can both go to a distant world with no one else around, he then embraces her as the two continue to sink into the water. Haru later wakes up with Sora on top of him crying, saying she thought he was dead and he'd never wake up. She continually apologizes as Haru says it's okay, and he was afraid of the path ahead of them. He doesn't know what to do at this point, so they should search for the path that allows them to express their feelings together. He doesn't care what the others say or how much he might suffer. He just wants to make Sora happy. The two make out again and say "I love you" to each other.
Also, for some reason, they are both now shirtless.
We see the cast of main characters other than the incest twins meeting up and saying it's been a while, as it's revealed that Haru had sent them a text about how he and Sora made it to their destination, a city overseas where a craftsman who worked with their parents lives. So I guess they moved away and they're doing their best to become happy now? Funnily enough, the class president completely refuses to even hear the message, which I don't really blame her, to be honest. As everyone reflects on the twins, on a train, these freakazoid twins then begin to make out and straddle each other and shit as the show comes to a close. What an unbelievably stupid ass show. Like, I don't even know how to process literally all of this. I think the slogan of the show should be, "Fellas, is it wrong to f your twin?" Now, the ending is pretty ambiguous in that there is a theory where the twins actually died in the lake and they went to the afterlife, and that entire conversation at the end was after they died, and the friends are actually reminiscing on them after their deaths. But according to canonical material from the visual novel, this theory is most likely untrue. And honestly, I personally want to choose not to believe in this theory because to me, it would be such an unbelievably stupid fucking ending. I just like the headcanon more that these two decided to follow their incestuous ways and try to find a society that would accept their love, because that is much more entertaining to me than just having them die because no one accepted their incestuous ways. Either way, what an absolutely stupid ass show, man. Look, if people like this show, they like it, and you're free to disagree with anything or pretty much everything I've said in this video. But if you click on a video on my channel, you're gonna hear my opinions and thoughts. And my opinions and thoughts is that I am truly unable to take a show any seriously when it involves some kind of incestual relationship. How can I? It's just so coded like stepbrother, I'm stuck type shit. I don't even really care to do any sort of deep analysis or share my opinion on this entire Sora and Haru storyline except the words fucking stupid, because I just feel like there's not much there to explore anyway. I feel like a story of these twins learning how to move forward in their lives after the tragedy of losing their parents is an interesting setup to what could be a great story. But I feel like Yosuga no Sora instead completely takes away from the tragedy of the twins losing their parents and instead uses this event to fuel the main romance between Sora and Haru as well. Sora is scared to lose Haru because she lost her parents and doesn't want to lose anything else, which is super valid, but then she ends up just trying to f him the entire show. Like, what is this? I don't know. Again, I'm definitely not the audience demographic for this type of show, but I feel like Yosuga no Sora is a show that's 100% a product of its time. I can see people finding it to be good or whatever back then, when the choice of good anime was much less vast than what it is today. But now that we do have a lot of anime with incredible stories, well-written characters, and romances that don't come out of nowhere or build themselves only on top of trauma, or it's not just siblings trying to f each other, it's easy to see how Yosuga no Sora falls behind in so many ways, even though, again, I will say it did try something, and that's all I can really give it credit for. All in all, not a fan of this show. But anyways, that's pretty much it for me today, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more anime and anime-related content. A massive thank you to my channel members. I'll see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.